Welcome, welcome. Thank you for hopping on my success strategies. This morning, we are going to talk about, well, I call it emotional discipline. I actually mean emotional intelligence. It's a little bit of both. So I'm going to run you through some really great stuff. If you're not driving and you can take out a notebook and take some notes, I highly recommend it because I'm going to give you some some things to think about and some tips to work through it. I have a personal story for you I cannot wait to share with you. If you want to share this out to other people, guys, and they can't get on here live, or you want to go and reference this later, there's a few places you can always go find that. One is in our Hustle and Slay app, and you can always go share that very easily with people by just having them go to the website that describes how to download it. And it's just www.hustleandslay.app, all spelled out. And we load mine on Mondays and Sydney's on Wednesdays, always get loaded up to that app sometime throughout the week. We also have two separate YouTube channels. They get loaded to those YouTube channels. The reminders go out in our email list. If you're not on our email list, you can get on that, but you can feel free to share any of those with anybody if you think that they need to hear that. We each also have a podcast these go out on as well. So there's plenty of places to find the recaps of these. All right, let's dig in and get started. I am your host this morning, Jessica Green, if you didn't know that already. Okay, so what is emotional discipline? This involves managing your feelings and reactions to different situations. Emotional discipline helps you remain calm, composed, and objective in challenging or emotional situations, enabling you to make better decisions and avoid impulsive behavior. There's just a couple things I'll say first before I tell you a story. These are like my own personal, you should do these. This will really help with your emotional discipline and or emotional intelligence. Number one is practicing gratitude every single morning. If you are not getting out a notebook, a journal, a something where you're writing down at least 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for every single day, I highly recommend you start doing that. It shifts and I say first thing in the morning, sometimes mine doesn't, like if I have a crazy morning and the notebook doesn't, get pulled out first thing in the morning, just make sure you get it done. But I highly recommend doing it first thing in the morning because it sets the tone for your day that you're already gracious, you're already loving life, you're already very grateful for all the things that you have, you're grateful for some things that you're working on that you know are going to work in your favor, and you set your day off on a totally different path than people who wake up grumbling and upset that they're having to get up with their alarm and having to go to the job that they hate and the chores that have to be done in the house and the laundry that didn't get done on Sunday and now it's Monday. When people get up with that mindset versus the people who get up and start with gratitude, their emotional discipline and emotional mindset and emotional intelligence is 100% different than the other person. I will guarantee it. So that's my very first tip to you. If you're not doing it, please start and make it a consistent habit. I try to post it in my stories as much as possible, just for those of you who are trying to get that into a habit and can't seem to make it consistent. You can see my stories. It's not every day that I post it in my stories, but it is every day that I write in my gratitude. But I try to do that just for other people so that it clicks and reminds you should be doing it too, right? The second one, which has been extremely hard for me, I am a work in progress every day of my life, and it's the 24-hour rule. I know y'all know what I'm talking about too. And if you don't, the 24-hour rule essentially means if something happens, if something is said, if something frustrates you, aggravates you, makes you sad, makes you angry, it's wait 24 hours before you respond to it. I still have to work on this because my ego gets involved when it's been bruised or I've been upset. And I want to respond right away with why I'm right. It's human nature. It's innate. But we have to stop ourselves. We have to be emotionally disciplined enough to stop ourselves for 24 hours and plan to review that response. Because most of the time when we respond and we're responding out of emotion, we are not going to say or do anything that is productive. And a lot of times we're going to say or do things that actually could harm something for a long time and take a lot to work through, take it back, change it, alter it, whatever. So 24 hour waiting that 24 hours and breathing through it and thinking through it before responding. And this is so important when it comes to the age of social media, right? Because everything's microwave, everything is fast, everything is sudden. And there are a lot of people out there who are negative Nancy's that don't get on Monday mornings with me, that need to work on their emotional intelligence, and they are like these social media bandits that go out there and they hate their life because they wake up and think about all of the negative things first thing in the morning, and all they know how to do is be nasty out there, and they want you to play into their nastiness. So that 24-hour rule on social media is so important. My number 3 is practicing empathy, patience, and kindness with others. One of my best examples of someone who is really good at her emotional intelligence, hence why she is who she is and where she is, where she's at in life, is Danelle. She's one of my mentors. I watch her very, very closely handle people like I don't know if I've ever met another human that handles people the way that she does. I can watch sometimes in her masterminds and in group settings and at events and places she's spoken at. I can watch how irritating I'm finding some of the people around her, the things that they're saying, questions they're asking, the things I know she's already told them to do a million times and they're not doing it and they're still asking for the same things, or just the things that come out of their mouths. And she responds with patience, empathy, and kindness every single time. And my brain's going, how did you manage that? How did you manage that? Because she's managed her emotional discipline. She's managed her emotional intelligence very well. So if you are looking for someone to watch in that category, she's got it nailed. I'm trying to emulate those things. So if you find somebody who's good at it, watch them. Okay, a personal story, and then I'm going to go into some more tips and things that you can work on. Let's rewind to 2020, right before the pandemic. I was doing an event. I owned an event company called Top Summit. We started our first event in August of 2019. It was in Mackinac Island. It was a hit. It was amazing. We had some amazing speakers and authors. And so we planned our second event only 6 months later. I like to take on large projects and harm myself. Okay. So the second event was in Naples, Florida. Again, had some amazing speakers, amazing people. A set of people that we had at the first one that did so well and people were very fond of, we had back to the second one. And we were working with these people on multiple projects, and we were so excited to have them back. In that second round, though, we decided that we needed to do a better job on the stage of selling our next event rather than letting a lot of people sell on our stage. Because by the time we had allowed a bunch of people to sell on our stage, we then wanted to sell to our next event and people had already spent their money, right? I'm just giving you some business tips here too along the way, right? So this group of people did not care for that change. And so after a 4-day, very high stress for the person running it, managing the speakers, managing the events, managing the AV team, managing the live stream, managing all of the guests, managing the whole schedule, managing the staff, all the stuff I had to do. We had a very successful event. We had sold to our next event. We were really happy with how things were going. Little did we know within a month's time that the whole world was going to change and it was going to crush that business. But that's okay. We have to shift in business. But the emotional intelligence part comes in here. There was somebody unhappy with how we changed things up. And they took that unhappiness and wanted a meeting with me immediately after we closed the event. Now, after you close events like this and you did it, it went off really well, you're super excited, everyone's happy, the guests are buzzing, you want to go celebrate. You want to go celebrate with your team who busted their ass for you. You want to go celebrate with your partners who worked really hard to put this thing together. You want to celebrate with the speakers who are there, who you don't get to see very often, who are people you want to surround yourself with. And this one person decided that the meeting right after the event needed to happen. So I agreed, and I went to go meet this person, and it turned out very ugly, very, very ugly. And it ruined my entire event because this person wasn't at the time emotionally intelligent enough to stop themselves from doing that to me. It was a bad decision on their part. I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to take some constructive criticism. It's just not how she did it. It was pretty brutal. And bad timing. She should have waited until days after, and we could have met virtually about the feelings. There was nothing we were changing there about how they felt about it. But I ended up in tears. I was so angry, upset, and hurt that I left my own event. And instead of celebrating with my staff and my speakers and everybody that was only going to be there for another like 12 to 24 hours, my good friends Haas and Sydney swept me away and took me out of the resort and out of the setting so I could go calm down and use the 24-hour rule. It was a really great learning experience for me, and this is why I'm sharing it. That's a high intense moment, right? There's going to be emotionally intelligent decisions you need to make in your businesses each and every single day on how you respond to things and how your body reacts. So I chose at that time, after that happened, I came back to the resort later that night, had some really great conversations with people who absolutely loved me, loved the event, adored us, and as a company wanted to see us absolutely explode from that event. And I told myself I was going to do some deep soul searching on that one once I got home and could settle down and calm down and figure it out, because I never, ever, ever want that to happen again, ever. And I decided then that I needed to take some steps in a journey on emotional intelligence and how I handled myself in situations. It was a really good plan, do, review, reflection time for me. And so I implore you to take some time. One of the things on my list of stuff I'm going to go over with you is to self-reflect and make some shifts and make some changes so that you can become an incredible human that people want to be around and do business with all of the time, because you know how to handle yourself. I won't say that I made all of the mistakes in that situation. I could have done better, but I did obviously do decently. One of the people at that event that was a part of that crew that happened with ended up separating from that crew shortly thereafter, because saw some of the same things that I did. And now he is one of my greatest mentors and business partners in life. His name is Jason Tyne. And so when you do handle yourself in one aspect appropriately, you end up with long-term friendships and long-term business partners and people who will want to do business with you long-term. So while I made some mistakes in there, I obviously did some things right, because a great relationship flourished out of that. And now we get to do business and life together every single day. So watch what you do, watch who you interact with, watch how you do things. Let me go through some of my list over here that I put together for you guys. Okay, so your reaction and how you do things will give everyone else the upper hand. You've already shown all of your cards. You've acted impulsively, good, bad, or ugly. Now everyone knows exactly how you'll react in situations and how to push your buttons. And there are people who are unfortunately looking for stuff like that, so they know how to play you. It sucks, but it's the truth. So you use that piece of advice on social media the most. Okay. Here's number one, identify your emotional triggers. What bugs you the fastest and the most? Write a list of them so that you are very aware. The first step in developing emotional discipline and emotional intelligence is to identify what triggers your emotional responses. What can bring you to tears quickly? What can upset you quickly? And be honest with yourself, because sometimes it's an ego thing that we just need to fix internally. Sometimes it's things we need to really work through, because maybe something happened somewhere in your life that's a trigger for you. I hate that word. I think that we just need to get over stuff. I mean, excuse my language. When you're doing this, keep a journal to track your emotions on what, how, when, and who triggers them. You ever notice sometimes when a very specific person is around or they walk in the room, it almost immediately puts you on a different emotional field, right? be mindful of that. Those people maybe are not a good people to have in that environment with you or around you a lot if they're constantly triggering emotional things for you that make you react in certain ways. Pay attention to physical sensations. I just had an experience like this, not in a bad way, but had some meetings. I flew to Atlanta, had some meetings over the last few days, and I sat down for one of those meetings, and there was a couple people in the room, and when one person entered the room, I had like a really physical response to it. I am very in tune with now what happens in my body and how my other people's presence or certain scenarios can immediately change how I feel right then and there. I am getting so in tune with it that it's almost a little bit scary sometimes. I was like, all right, knock that off. That is an inappropriate like response to that at this point. There's nothing that's happened. There's nothing bad. But now I'm like aware. I'm acutely aware that I felt like that, and I will watch it very closely now. Okay. So start becoming very aware. Keep a journal of what emotionally triggers you. Seek therapy or counseling, gaining insight on your triggers and how to manage them. Now, let's not become wussies. I'm such a mindset freak about like, let's gain some mental toughness here. But if it's something that's literally debilitating you and your business and your friendships, your relationships, then yes, you should seek someone to help you through those things. Don't leave it there, because it's not going to get better unless you fix it. Okay, so number 2, practice self-awareness. I kind of already went over that. Pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors. Be mindful of how you're feeling and what's causing those emotions. Again, keep this in your journal. Take time to reflect on why you're feeling that way. Practice the mindfulness, practice techniques that help you with the mindfulness, such as meditation, deep breathing. Stay present in the moment that you're in until you figure out why you're feeling that way. So that, and you guys, I know this sounds like a long process. I don't mean for it to take a long time. I mean for you to be very mindful. Now for me, it's like this. I can feel it. I work through it. I know now what the response is supposed to be. And if I don't, I make a note of it in my physical notes so that I can go back to figuring out why I got that way and what I'm going to do about it next time. Number 3 is take deep breaths. I know that sounds silly, but I actually was reading an article on anxiety the other day, because it seems like everybody and their brother is suffering with some sort of anxiety nowadays. And I don't know what that was back in the 80s or 90s, but I never heard anybody talking about it or having those physical responses like they do now. I don't know. There's probably a million reasons why. We call it the social world, the plugged in world, whatever. The foods we eat, the lack of exercise we get. I don't know. The stress we put ourselves under, the way the world is. But deep breathing is like top number 1, A1A, for when you're experiencing some anxiety. So same goes for your emotional discipline and intelligence. When you're feeling a certain way, those deep breaths can do a whole lot for calming you down. So don't minimize that. It sounds silly sometimes, but it's actually not. Those deep breaths are important, which is why in meditation, number 4, practicing meditation is something that you should absolutely start doing when you get yourself very worked up over something. So practice mindful meditation. Find a quiet, comfortable spot, do some deep breathing, focus on your breath. Start with short, just small breaks that you're just deep in thought and doing some breath work and working through the feelings. I'm not talking like, if I don't have a lot of time in my day, I shouldn't say I cannot. I should more walk away from my desk and take out 10 minutes to bring the brain back, because sometimes we overwork it and that causes anxiety, right? Express yourself effectively. Actually, I flip-flopped. That's number 6. I'll go back to number 5 in a second. Express yourself effectively. Now, when I say this, I mean take the 24-hour rule first, and then you will be able to express yourself more effectively. If you get really good at being able to handle your emotions, then maybe taking the 24-hour rule isn't necessary for you. But I know that when you're first learning how to practice this, if you're not responding in the right way, then taking that 24-hour rule is probably pretty important. I know if something really works me up, good, bad, or ugly. This can be on a good front too. Think about this. So it's not all negative. Sometimes I'm given information or things come in, I'm told something, and I get super excited about the possibilities around it. If you spend enough time with me, you'll know I do this. And sometimes I speak before I think. I've made 10 plans on how we're going to deploy that, execute on it, and run with it. And I probably should have thought about it for 24 hours first before we just went and jumped in and made a whole project about it. Because maybe that was not the right thing to do with my time or other people's time. So this goes in a positive light too, right? Sometimes it's positive things that come on that we need 24 hours to think about, process, and work through before we go forward. So express yourself effectively, meaning practice active listening. You know, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen more and speak less. It took me, we just had this conversation when I was in Atlanta. It took me a very long time to realize that I needed to listen more and talk less. I am a talker. I am a teacher. I am a coach. I am a business owner. I love to talk in front of the room. I love to talk and train people. So I just love to talk. It's not because I think I know more than other people. It's just because I do love to talk. I like to strategize. I like the communication. But sometimes not sometimes, a lot of times we will learn so much more just by actively listening to people and not talking so much. So expressing yourself effectively a lot of times just means listening to the other side, having some empathy of maybe why they said or did what they did. And use I statements to communicate your own feelings and needs instead of some of the other things that we can use when we try to grab an army of our friends to get our point across. Well, what we thought was, well, how you made us feel was, well, what everyone says is, no, it should be I. That is how you effectively communicate what is happening, what's going on, and what you're feeling like. I know that sometimes we try to go collect our friends, family, and other people that may have been in earshot or in the scenario or connected to it to actually get our point across, when really it's more effective if you just tell the person how you're feeling and what your idea is on a situation, rather than collect your other people to put in that statement. That's not fair. Avoid blaming and attacking types of language, because it's never actually going to be received well, ever. No matter if it's right, it's not going to be received well, and it's just going to land you in a spot of arguing more and more drama. So try to leave blaming and attacking language out when expressing yourself. My husband and I love to bicker. Sometimes we are called the McBickersons. We do it all in love and fun. We definitely like to, have some conversation there. And sometimes it makes people laugh and sometimes it makes them uncomfortable, but we never fight. We just bicker. But we've had to be, because we do that and our personalities are like that, we have worked really hard at this. We have worked really hard at not using attacking language or blaming language when doing that, because it can turn ugly really quick. So try to practice that when you're expressing your feelings and emotions and your thoughts on something, to stay away from things that would be considered attacking or blaming. Use positive self-talk. I was like, I feel like I skipped one and went back up. Okay, so number 5 is actually use positive self-talk. When you are having some negative thoughts and emotions about what happened or how something happened, kind of go back and, like I said, plan, do, review, and give yourself some credit and give yourself some positive affirmations and some positive talk around the situation. And this can be in that 24 hours that you're trying to go through that scenario and see how you would react. And like I said, guys, as you get better and better and better at this, it's going to flow naturally in conversation rather than having to wait out 24 hours to handle something that needs to be handled right then and there. Number 7, I am not going in order this morning. I cannot seem to keep on track with my notes, but that's okay. Number 7, we're going to get through these. Number 7 is practice empathy. Always try to see and feel what the other person is feeling. I think that practicing empathy is almost one of the top characteristics you could ever have. If you can put yourself in someone else's shoes. I give my son a lot of credit for this. He's 16 years old. And from a very young age, I could tell that he is an extremely empathetic person. He does not like when someone hurts. And he is very quick to beating himself up if he feels as if he's put someone in a scenario that he's hurt them with his words or his actions or whatever. So he tries very hard not to ever be in those situations. I strive to be a little bit more like him because his empathy level is way up here. Is he a perfect kid? Not always. He still leaves his dirty laundry on the floor. It drives me nuts. Okay. But he's really good at the empathy thing. If that is one skill set I could wish upon anyone, it would be that. Because the more you can empathize with other people, and I'm not talking about, don't like those people who go out on social media and call themselves empaths. Ugh. It also makes me want to vomit. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about you using that word to say that you attach everybody's feelings to you. And so therefore you cannot move in any direction because you have everybody else's feelings all over you. That is not what I'm talking about. That's an issue. That's an issue you actually need to go fix. And if I've offended you by that, you already know that this talk was for you. Okay. So you can have empathy and not call yourself an empath. I believe calling yourself an empath is making you an extremely weak mindset individual. That is just my opinion. Like it or leave it. Okay. Number 8, set boundaries. Woo! There are books on this. Setting boundaries is something that us females more than males really need some help with. Setting those boundaries, knowing when to say no, knowing when yes is okay, and knowing when to remove someone from your circle. Set boundaries. When we are, especially network marketers, when you are in network marketing and you have a team and you feel like you have to say yes to everything, this took me a long time to figure out how to set boundaries because some people are not going to like them. But guess what? Those people aren't meant for your journey. If they cannot handle your boundaries, they are not meant for your journey. Okay. As a leader with a team, you obviously have to have some pretty open hours, but you also have to set some boundaries so that you are not mentally and physically hurting your own self and allowing things to take place that should not take place. I did a set of training a bit ago on core values. A lot of these things I'm talking about right now should be in your core values, your top 5 core values. My mastermind folks, we are going to work on that next 2 weeks from now. Okay. Set boundaries, seek support. I already said this once. If you find these things are super difficult for you and you find yourself crying at the drop of a hat or pissing off all your friends or constantly arguing with people, or drama seems to seek you out wherever you go. Ever heard the saying, everywhere I go, there you are. It might be you. So maybe seeking some support and some help and having someone else come in, if the self-awareness isn't there and the reflection time is you think that everything's good, but you keep finding yourself in these emotionally heightened situations. You keep finding yourself in the middle of the drama circle. You keep finding yourself in conversations that are not good for you. Then maybe it's you and we need to fix it. So you find some support and we fix it, because in business, in order to soar to the top, you are going to have to become a more emotionally intelligent, disciplined person. Number 10, last one, but not least one, is practice some self-care. If you find yourself in a situation that you worked really strongly to get through and practice some really good emotional intelligence on the outside, but you're still reeling on the inside, you need to do some self-care. Go get a massage, go do some yoga, make sure you're doing some meditation, make sure you're prioritizing your sleep and your exercise and your water intake. Make sure you're prioritizing your self-care so that you can get better to feeling good on the inside. And maybe that seek support, going to get some counseling or a source that, don't go find your friend who allows you to complain. Let me put that out there. That's a disclaimer on this entire thing. You are not allowed to go find a friend that allows you to complain. You have to go find someone who can actually support, give strategy, give solution, move on. Maybe that's a counselor, maybe it's still a friend, but it is not one that allows complaints. It is one that will allow you to whine for like 3 minutes and then solution starts. If you're complaining and whining for more than 3 minutes about the topic and solution isn't coming in, that's the wrong person to go to for support. Everyone agree? Agree. Yes. Okay. I want to give you a few books. I know I'm going over. I want to give you a few books that you can start with if you would like to dig into this and get a little bit better at your emotional intelligence / discipline. Number one book on the market, and you can go Google it. You can chat GPT it. It is going to be the same book that gets recommended every single time. And it is Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry. Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry. And Gene Greaves. Sorry, there's a second author there. I didn't realize. Funny that that's number one, because number two is the Emotional Intelligence Quick Book by the same authors. So number one and number two are of the same category, same authors. They obviously have it down. Number three is working with, I will put this in the follow-up email. If you are not on our email list, please get with me so I can get you on there. If you're not getting our emails, they could be in your junk folder. Go check that out, your spam folder, and move us to the right folder. But I will put these out in email and some of these notes so that you have them. Okay. So you can look for those emails and get my notes. I will try to do that every single week. I am getting more organized. I finally have a virtual assistant that's really good. Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Number four, The Power of Emotional Intelligence by Howard Book. And number five, Emotional Intelligence, just Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than Your IQ. And I agree with that statement. Daniel Goleman is also the author of that book. I will get these in email along with a lot of the notes that I just gave you guys so that you can have those. I do like when you write things down because then it sticks better. Do you agree? Sometimes when you write your own notes, it sticks better. I can send this out in email and you might not look at it. So just know that I will, in case you are on the road, I'll get these notes out in the email along with where you can find the recordings of this. I hope you guys have a fabulous week, and let's put gratitude in. Let's put the 24-hour rule in. And this week, let's work really hard on trying to be more empathetic, more patient, and have more kindness for other human beings. And we will have a winning week. I'm going to see you back here next Monday morning, but from the beach. I will show you the background if I can. If I can move my laptop around and show you the beach, I will. Okay. I hope you guys have a fabulous week. I will see you soon.